Module 2, Relational Summary Lecture GSE2, Seeds of Sustainability. We've covered the implications of the huge amounts of liquid water in the southern hemisphere of what really should be called the planet water, not the planet Earth, and how they've regulated and stabilized the climate for millions of years, enabling human beings and our civilizations to flourish. What we need to talk about now are the big white elephants in the room, the masses of solid water, the frozen water, that also dominates this hemisphere. The obvious elephant is the continent of Antarctica, but it isn't the only land of perpetual snow and ice in the south. Glacial ice is said to be the largest reservoir of fresh water on Earth, and despite the dearth of the Earth in the southern hemisphere, we can find miles and miles of ice glaciers in the south, from two of the most accessible glaciers in the world, Franz Josef and Fox, near the rainy west coast of New Zealand's South Island, to Kenya's Mount Kenya, Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, and the Ruwenzori Mountains of Uganda, and westward to Bolivia, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Chile, and most famously, Argentina, where trekkers have been visiting the towering walls of ice, Perito Moreno, since the expeditions of Alexander von Humboldt and Henri Bonpland during the years 1799 to 1824. Many of these, once considered almost permanent glaciers, tower above tropical and subtropical rainforests and supply most of the fresh water that communities below them depend on. I had the privilege of eating snow near Pico Humboldt and Pico Bonpland, glaciers named after the famous scientists and explorers, in the Sierra Nevada de Merida in the Venezuelan Andes on a Harvard botanical expedition in 1984, where we traveled mainly to explore rainforest ecology. It was there, over 160 years after Humboldt explored them for the Europeans, that I first learned that climate change was a serious issue. It was an issue that Humboldt himself wrote about during those expeditions to those very locations. Yes, anthropogenic climate change has been a topic of concern for over a century. Scientists like Humboldt, who was obsessed with data collection and measurement, were already witnessing the signs that the glaciers were not permanent at all and could be affected by our activities. Now, the problem with glaciers in New Zealand and Africa and South America and, of course, Antarctica, to say nothing of the glaciers in the northern hemisphere, is that when that ice and snow melts, it absolutely raises sea level. The ubiquitous misguided and misleading memes on social media showing how ice melting doesn't affect water volume are trying to confuse people about sea ice. Land ice is quite another matter entirely. According to the website Climate Feedback, quote, Greenland lost around 3,800 billion tons of ice between 1992 and 2018, while Antarctica lost about 2,700 billion tons between 1992 and 2017, together raising global sea level by about 18 millimeters over that time span.